Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, get to coach another hockey tournament this weekend. We were talking before the show, and the tournament starts Friday at 3:15 p.m. It's like, children are in school Fridays at 3:15 p.m. or just about to leave. Like, was there not another time available? Is ice in that short supply? These are second and third graders. But Tony, my son is dropping out of school to pursue his hockey career. I couldn't be more excited.
They do it in Canada, man. I think you get like maybe at most a fourth grade education before you get shipped off to Moose Jaw or something like that. And then you live with a host family and they teach you how to multiply figuratively and literally. And then you create more hockey players. And I think that's how it just goes. And that's why they're so good at hockey. And you know, we're trying.
Yeah, the order of levels in youth hockey is mini mites, and then mites, and then mite select is the kids who are kind of the better people at the mites level, and then you go straight to major juniors. That's the next level right up. So he's a 2013 birthday. So next year he will be in major juniors. So yes, can't wait to road trip to Saskatoon next year. Should be a blast.
I don't even want to look at Google Maps to find out how far away that is. Noon texted me the other day. He's like, I just had like a 2028 recruit follow me. I said, dude, like, that's like an 11-year-old, right? Like, holy cow. What are we doing right now?
Chris, what's his name from Dateline is also going to follow you if you follow that guy back. I think it's probably like 2028. Like, nah. I mean, like we can maybe start thinking about having conversations about like the 2025 kids maybe this fall.
You have to because they have offers.
Yeah, but yeah, 2028. Like, no, that's you will always get those kids who have the offers in like sixth grade. They never seem to pan out, do they? I mean, with the exception of Tate Martell, obviously, but I mean. You get the guys who are like incredible sixth graders, and it's like, wow, this kid can't miss, and then everyone else catches up, and so that's I'm not ready to talk about 2028. So how about we talk about a 2023? Let's start the show with the 2023, and maybe we can ease our way into the later recruiting classes later.
Yeah, and we're going to get to some listener questions, but first I wanted to talk about this. This article from The Athletic talking about a particular recruit, and I wouldn't say which because that was part of the condition of being shown these documents. A collective, an NIL collective from a particular school has ponied up like $8 million to sign this recruit or to get this recruit, not necessarily to their school because that would be illegal. But, and granted, Tom, I do not have a subscription to The Athletic, so I don't know if you've read this or not, but I'm sure you've heard about it. Anyway, a lot of people believe it is California quarterback Nico Iamaleava. Malieva?
Iamaleava is, I believe, how you say it.
Iamaleava. Okay, perfect. And so I think one of the reasons people are they think this is him is you've seen some predictions going his way, like the
crystal balls,
ball stuff going his way, and what I am confused about is, and just so you know, California, I believe their high school athletic association allows for NIL stuff, so it's okay to pay California high school kids. I don't understand how an NIL collective from, say in theory, Tennessee, can then go give money to a California kid. Now, they can do all of this. There's nothing that says they can't. And then, hey, if that kid signs with Tennessee, that's great. It seems to me like this would be on the part of the school to say, hey, you can't entice this. You're not supposed to pay players to come to your school. And Tom, I'm really disappointed. If this is Tennessee and this is the quarterback, I'm just very disappointed that this SEC school is saying, whoa, let's ease up on this NIL collective stuff. We do not pay players to come. We don't want players to be paid to come to Tennessee. I think that would be the appropriate thing for them to do.
Do you think they wrote the McDonald's bags into the contract, or do you think that was just sort of implied?
Well, that probably implied. That just goes with the territory. It's like if you're going to go see a Carrot Top show, you're going to have, let's see the props. Like you just, it's part of the deal. And I would expect that they would be thinking that same thing. Yeah. Do you just get the bags because is this all cash business? It's not all cash business, but still, if you don't get the bags, you're like, it kind of feels like I'm being shortchanged.
I like you comparing Carrot Top to Tennessee football because both obviously closely affiliated with the color orange and both last relevant in the 1990s. So I think that was a pretty good comparison by you there. This is a really interesting deal. Let's assume that these are the dots that we're going to be connecting here because it seems the consensus seems to be that these dots are connected in some way. So let's just for the moment stipulate that this is the deal. You can't write into the contract because you have to come to the University of Tennessee. So you wonder how it would be fascinating to see exactly how that contract is structured. Where if it is a collective based out of Knoxville, Tennessee, let's just say hypothetically, a quarterback from California would not really, be of much use to local Knoxville businesses, say, if they were in just looking for pure advertising. So, yeah, there has to be some kind of a handshake agreement, I guess, and maybe the deal gets torn up, or there's some kind of maybe canceled by either party with 30 days notice kind of thing in there. I mean, you could probably do something like that, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many of these happen, because I think you're going to see some of these for a while. My question is 3 years from now, I don't know that I've looked at Tennessee football at any point in the last 15 years and said they're just a quarterback away. Like, so if you pay a quarterback $8 million, and he is a very good quarterback. We saw him at Ohio State camp last year. He is big, rangy, athletic, strong arm. Like he's the real deal. And I think was someone that Ryan Day was pretty high on after seeing him at camp last June in the WAC. But so this is a real deal quarterback. I don't know that he solves all of their problems. So if they're going 8-4 or 7-5, and they're losing to Georgia, and they still have Alabama on the schedule every year, and then you're going to have Texas A&M every few years, or Auburn or LSU, or and you if you're going 8-4, how many years of 7-5 and 8-4 are those? Is that $8 million going to how long will until the booster folks are like, I don't know if that's worth it. It feels like I don't know that the Alabamas and Ohio States of the world necessarily need to be throwing $8 million deals at guys because you've got the development piece of this. So the schools that are going to have to really, really throw the bag at people, Texas A&M or Tennessee or schools like that, I don't know if you're going to have the results that's going to make this something that's going to get repeated over and over and over again. And I say that as if SEC teams aren't constantly hiring coaches for ludicrous amounts of money and then firing them after 2 years and then making the exact same mistake again. So maybe this is just going to go on forever.
You and I have both been in the camp that this is not going to destroy college football. And I've seen dishonest arguments from people who have been saying this is going to destroy college football, implying that you or me or people like us have said that this would have no impact on college football, that NIL would have no impact, and that's never been what we've said. It's a new rule, it's another thing, and it's going to have an impact, and you're seeing it already. But Tennessee paying for a quarterback doesn't really move the needle for me. Go ahead, have at it, and enjoy yourself. All that does to me, in my mind, is it keeps a player away from Alabama. It keeps a player away from Ohio State. It allows other programs to attempt to compete. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I'm still waiting, and granted, it's early, and maybe by the time this actually does start to harm Ohio State, the people paying all the money and not getting anything in return will be like, you know what? This really hasn't been helping. This really, another 8-4 season. Good job. I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. We've seen this enacted. Ohio State has landed number one recruit after number one recruit since this has been going on. And that was when they really had nothing in place in terms of an NIL collective or plans. So now they've got their collectives, and Brian Schottenstein is talking big things with him and Cardale Jones, and that's fine. And we'll see how effective that actually is. But you're going to see, like, how effective is that going to be at any school? Hey, you landed the top player in Ohio. Good, you should have anyway. So it's you're going to be, I think, in the same realm of recruiting classes. And you see somebody saying, well, it's obviously changed things for outrageous reasons. Look at Texas A&M; they've got the number 1 recruiting class. Except, Jimbo Fisher has always been a good recruiter, and Texas A&M under him has been top 5, top 6, top 7 classes. It was only a matter of time before they had one of the nation's best classes. And did the NIL help them? Probably. Did it? This isn't Louisiana Lafayette having the top class. This is Texas A&M. It's tons of money and a legacy, a history of football, playing in the SEC West, where you have to recruit. You really have to focus on it and take it seriously. Jimbo Fisher does. He has a history of it. He has a good class. Like, these are all mathematical probabilities that should have been expected, and then you throw a little NIL money in there and it helps them out a little bit. But it's clearly a new thing and will have its impact. But I just chuckle when people try to say, oh, you said it wasn't going to have any impact. It's like, no, we never said that. There's too much money for it to not to have an impact, but also it's going to have a great impact on the players and their families, which is the most important thing.
It is. I personally am shocked about laziness, stupidity, and dishonesty from people desperate for a W online. I mean, that never happens on the internet, Tony. That's not. I don't think that's possible. Yes, Texas A&M had the number 1 class this year. I mean, let's see if they have enough money to sign the number 1 class next year and to keep paying these players that they signed this year, and seeing if the 5 or 6 defensive linemen that they brought in this year are all going to be happy. Not all starting. You can't all start unless you're playing a 6-man defensive line. So how many of those guys, are going to pan out? Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to be tired of waiting and leave. Someone, let's see. Let's not declare college football dead based on one recruiting class that has yet to actually play a meaningful game. Like, that's probably a little hasty. So yes, it's. I think that there's a little bit of a TBD on all of this stuff. That maybe Tennessee will win a national championship in 2026, and everyone will say, "Wow, the $8 million man led them to a national championship." Maybe they're going to go 7-5. Like, let's not just start crowning teams before they actually have players step on the field. Because again, this is a 2023 recruit. This is not even someone who's here this year. This is someone who's here next year, and probably not going to be a starting quarterback the first year of a national championship team. So now it's 2024. And which to you is more likely, Tony? Tennessee wins a national championship in 2025 through 2026, one of those years, or Josh Heupel is no longer the head coach of Tennessee by the end of 2026? Because I have one very, very clear, certain answer on that question.
Well, history would tell us that a Tennessee coach getting fired is much more likely than a Tennessee coach winning a national championship. So that would be my vote on that one. I think the interesting thing is you have these coaches that need the collectives. But when you bring in a quarterback, the expectation from the people paying that quarterback is, why isn't that quarterback playing? We brought him here to play. And if he doesn't play as a freshman, the coach is playing the best player. The collective or the boosters are going to want to see their investment on the field. And so it's this thing where the coaches need the collectives and the boosters, but then they can become an awful pain in the butt. And Jimbo Fisher has alluded to these things, and it's, and Texas and all of that stuff where you have to have it, but just be careful when you get what you want, because other people are going to want stuff too.
Yeah, that is the counter argument to, well, all this money and all these boosters getting involved, like, this is going to guarantee success. okay, cool, hook 'em. Like that is literally the problem at Texas is you have boosters and fighting factions of boosters and no one wants the same thing. Well, if my booster core group has given the starting running back $2 million and then the next 5-star guy a year behind, well, he got $1.5 million from another group guy. Well, guess what? Guess who's going to be a little salty if their dude is splitting carries and not putting up huge numbers? Both sides. You might tick off both people. Or if you got people, look at the way Ohio State recruits 5-star quarterbacks. If they had different booster groups paying each of those guys, well, do you think that might be a problem? Do you think the 2025 quarterback booster group might be a little ticked that the 2024 guy is playing? Well, obviously our guy's better. We paid him a lot of money. Like you're gonna have that kind of issue if you were a program that is doing it based solely on look at how much we're paying our dudes. Let's see Texas A&M win something. Let's see Texas A&M make the college football playoff. Let's see Texas A&M win a national championship. Maybe they have been close even before this happened. So maybe, but let's see it happen. Let's see Texas. Let's see what happens to Texas when they go to the SEC, because I suspect the answer is going to be not very good things are going to happen to Texas when they go into the SEC. So just having money does not solve all of your problems. And, I think having a ton of money floating around without a really set structure is really asking for trouble. That is one of the things that Nick Saban implemented when he went to Alabama. Like Alabama had crazy booster factions. If you're too young to remember pre-Saban Alabama, like Mike Shula Alabama, Dennis Franchione Alabama, Mike DuBose Alabama. Like they had crazy booster factions. It was like Auburn, basically. It was Auburn without the success. And, Nick Saban came in and basically said, like, I'm in charge here. I am the adult in the room. You can all basically form a line and you can come and talk to me and I'll tell you if you can do what you want to do. And I don't know if Josh Heupel's the dude to be able to do that. I don't know if Steve Sarkisian is the dude to be able to do that. We will see if Jimbo Fisher's the dude to be able to do that. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes this stuff can get out of control. I think there's a better possibility that one or more of these like major, high-profile, flashy, big number booster things completely blows up and just obliterates a team's culture. I think there's a better chance of that than multiple of these teams winning a national championship.
Yeah, and really, and I've said it before, paying these players to come to your school is not how you build a culture. It's how you kill a culture. And you look at Ohio State has had one player come to Ohio State to cash in. That was Quinn Ewers, and the Ohio State culture spit him out. Like, no. And 4 months later, he left for another deal. And that's not how you may be able to win some. I don't think it's a sustained model. It's the Kentucky one and done stuff with John Calipari is kind of the model that I'm thinking, and that's not going. I don't know that that's actually going to work in football. I do if you get like a Cam Newton or something like that, and then he can carry a team, and anything can happen that way. But you saw what happened 1 year after Cam Newton and Gene Chizik got fired. So it's like look at LSU with Joe Burrow. You can get lightning in a bottle, but you better have some talent around him, and then that doesn't necessarily mean you can sustain anything. Would you rather be at LSU or would you rather be Ohio State over the last 5 years? Yeah, you got a national championship, but what else do you have to show for it? You've got a lot of angry people and some ridiculous head coaches, and it's. I think there's something to be said for the consistency of culture over the NIL stuff. And I know some programs are going to need to pay to hope to get to that culture. And I think this is a great move for Tennessee to go and get a 5-star quarterback, arguably the top quarterback in a 2023 class, and go from there. But you've got 3 years, and the first year, good luck. You're not going to get much out of him. So you've got really 2 years, 24 and 25, basically. Because if this guy's any good, then he's leaving after his junior year. And if he's not any good, then you've got him for 5 years. And what are you paying for then?
Yeah, I think we need to reiterate, because I think it sounds like we're very down on this, the whole thing. Like, yeah, NIL has been a very good net positive for student athletes. It is a good thing. This is long overdue. A lot of the negatives surrounding it are due to the NCAA's complete abdication of its responsibilities as a governing body for the sport to do anything and put anything in place, any kind of guardrails in place, and just say no until the absolute last minute, and then throw their hands up and go, well, fine, if you want to do it, you figure it out. A lot of these issues are NCAA created issues just from them just completely just abdicating their responsibility around this issue. But on the whole, this has been a very good thing. I would like to see a primarily pay for play type of school. Like, let's see that culture work out. There are plenty of schools where it is that model has. I mean, look at how well Nevin Shapiro era Miami teams did. Like, it was great, man. They were all of which of the Nevin Shapiro era national championships was your favorite?
Maybe the 09 national championship,
Yeah.
or the 08 or the 07.
Yeah, I mean, so many to choose from. I think, ultimately there is a reason that coaches talk about culture and the importance of culture. This is not just sort of an empty coaching, an empty coach speak thing. Like, this is actually an important thing. And the guys who are serious about getting better, those guys are going to go to schools that are going to develop them. Tennessee is not a school that develops you. You can go back 20 years and look at the players that they bring in and the players that they spit out, and it's like the number of players who went in rated relatively highly and left with no SEC championships, no significant bowl wins, undrafted or drafted very late. Like, it is not a place that has had success. So, I mean, like, credit to them for trying something new, but I don't know that I'm believing that this is actually going to make a material difference to them in terms of winning SEC championships, winning college football playoff games.
The example of the Miami thing is another one that I completely agree with. When my theory, my belief, my feeling is that when players over the last 2 decades have chosen Miami, especially not say the last decade, since Miami has really been down, anytime a player chooses Miami, I see that as, they're just choosing that image or what they think Miami is, and it's a superficial decision. And you see the superficial results. And I feel the same way about going to a school because of an NIL collective that, the highest bidder or whatever, you're going there for superficial reasons, and I expect results to kind of mirror that. And I know in the past, whenever a player has gone to Miami, it's like, okay, well, don't have to worry about that guy anymore. He's not going to come back to haunt, Ohio State or anything like that. It's like, well, he's out of sight, out of mind. He's in Miami right now, and maybe he'll show up in the NFL one day. Maybe he won't, but it's no longer a concern because you're not going to see him in the playoffs. And, we'll see if that goes the same way with this NIL stuff.
Yeah. I think let's see it actually work for someone before you start worrying about the fact that this is going to break the sport. Because it seems like this is just, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but this is probably not the first time a college football player has been remunerated with cash money in exchange for his excellence on the football field. These transactions may be going on a little more publicly now, but this is probably not a brand new thing in the sport of college football. For example, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned Cam Newton earlier. Maybe someone on that Auburn team got paid. I don't know. I mean, it may still be an ongoing investigation. I don't know. The important thing, Tony, is that Cecil Newton's church is in great shape, physically right now. It's great. The roof is not leaking. It's wonderful. So I got to see it. Like, everything is changing very quickly in the sport of college football, and everyone is kind of making predictions about how this is going to go. And so far, a lot of the predictions have not been exactly right. You're hearing about these super teams, and it's like, okay, maybe. Like, let's see it before we get too freaked out that this is going to destroy the sport.
It will be interesting once Nick Saban retires. If say that's in the next 2 years, and then Texas A&M kind of takes over, and it's like, I told you, and it's like, well, Nick Saban is gone, so somebody had to, take over the SEC. He can only do it for so long.
Well, you got to remember, Texas A&M may have millions and millions of oil dollars, but LSU has Brian Kelly dancing videos. So I would say the SEC West is still pretty wide open.
And I expect Oklahoma and Texas to be fantastic when they arrive. And
the views of Tony Gerdeman do not reflect the views of the Buckeye Weekly Podcast.
They are going to take over the SEC just like Penn State and Nebraska took over the Big Ten. I'm telling you. Tom, do you think who has a better chance of winning a national championship in their new conference? Oklahoma or Cincinnati?
I would say Oklahoma, because I think Cincinnati, I think the Big 12 is going to be like a fifth of the Power 5, a solid number 5 of the Power 5. I think Cincinnati is going to make the playoffs much more frequently.
Right, and that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, make the playoffs, yes, Cincinnati. Win a national championship, I still think Cincinnati is going to run into the issue where even in your home state, like, it's great that Cincinnati's a Power 5 team. Cincinnati's still not beating Ohio State for recruits. I mean, Cincinnati may beat Ohio State for one recruit a year or something moving forward now that they're a Power 5 team. I mean, that Ohio State's like legitimately would be a take for Ohio State. Like, maybe one a year. I don't know that I see them making that big of a leap. Unless, I mean, they might have the biggest payroll of any team in Cincinnati this year, but sorry, Reds fans. Sorry. I don't. You as a Mets fan have some nerve. Well, I mean, to come in and start ripping on the Reds and their inability and their. It's not like they don't want to pay; they just can't afford these players, Tom. The players that are already under contract for another few years that are all-star outfielders, they just can't afford to pay them anymore, Tom. Yeah. So the average MLB team, every MLB team gets something like $67 million a year from the national TV deal, not including your local TV deal, not including every ticket, every box of popcorn, every parking spot. So don't let your MLB owner lie to you. They have plenty of money. They're just cheap. But back to Cincinnati football. I think there are some built-in disadvantages there that they're gonna bump up against the ceiling, and I think you more or less saw the ceiling they were gonna bump up against. You can put together a great season. You can make a top 5-ish team, top 4 team, but you're gonna bump up. There's a certain level of the sport that you're not gonna be competitive with. And I think you've kind of seen that with Cincinnati the last couple of years. They've been very good, but then they got smoked by Alabama. And they put up a reasonable fight against Alabama. It wasn't like they got completely annihilated 63-0. They put up a good fight, but it still was not a competitive game. A couple of years ago, they play Ohio State. They lose 42-0. I mean, it's like they're very good, but I think there's a cap there. I think the cap for Cincinnati is, you could make college football playoffs, but I don't think you're winning national championships. I think what the university with the football program needs, some of that Grippos money. That's where you need a Grippos collective to come in and start getting some of these guys that normally go to Kentucky or Michigan State or Iowa, get these Ohio kids that are a tier below Ohio State and get them that barbecue potato chip money and get them into town. I would not suggest Skyline get involved or Gold Star get involved. We don't need that kind of stuff. You don't need that kind of ilk, which ilk is a great description of that food. But, Grippos, I think it would be a fine Wiedemann's beer from the 1970s and 80s. If they could come back and be a collective, that would be great too. The fat, stubby bottles, everybody loves them. Yeah, was it Houday Pole beer that give the... There you go. Yeah. Who they think going to pay them recruits? I mean, I think the current Ohio law prohibits alcohol, but maybe Houday Pool can make a non-alcoholic. In Covington, dude. Make a non-alcoholic brew. That'll be fine. Yeah, just sign the contract and across the river in Kentucky. Yeah. Perfect. This is why you're my attorney. That's totally fine. Tom, we were going to do some listener questions, but we have run out of time. I think you have anything else to add before we go? No, I was just looking at the questions going, well, we got through none of these today. So great show, everyone. And good news. Apparently you're getting an extra show this week because we had a couple shows planned out and we didn't get into any of it. So great news. You're getting 3 shows this week probably, or 2 long ones. Yeah, I blame you, Tom. I do not blame myself. So that will do it for this show. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Thank you for the questions that we didn't get to that we will get to probably in the next show, unless
we just spend 30 minutes talking about my bracket. We'll see. This time.
The thing that everyone wants to hear about most. Who's in my final four? My column.
Somebody else's bracket, yes. The worst. But we'll go game by game, matchup by matchup, outcome by outcome. I can't wait.
So if I talk about having multiple brackets, are you as my attorney going to be able to keep me out of prison? Because I got a law passed in the state of Ohio with threatening imprisonment to anyone who had multiple brackets in previous years. So are you going to be able to keep me out of prison?
Tom, that's a question. I'm a good attorney. I'm not that good. Now, was the deal signed in Covington?
Oh man, smart. We'll have to go back and check the documents.
Yes. All right. See where it got notarized, Tom. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.